Welcome back to TEC Tube. This is going to be the second in a multi-part series we have on the ion communicating control for ICP equipment. So in this case, we're going to go into the advanced service settings and go through all of those settings that are kind of special, right? Things that we can do to tweak the operation of the system and kind of optimize it. So let's head out into the lab and get started. All right, so we're in the advanced service settings screen for the thermostat. If you don't know how to get there, then, well, you probably shouldn't be in these screens. It really isn't for you. This is for installers and service techs to be in here. So once you get into the advanced settings screen, this is the menu that you're going to see. We're going to go through each one and we're going to tell you what each setting means, right? So the first one is pretty quick, equipment summary. It shows you a list of all the equipment physically connected to this stat. So the furnace model number, the AC model number, what accessories you have, and so on, right? That's pretty self-explanatory. I'll back out of there. The next tab is installation. There's two choices on there. One is full installation. We did that in the previous video when we first installed this product, so we don't need to do that again today. If you want to watch that, click on the link up above here and you can go ahead and watch the previous video for startup. The second one is an airflow verification test. We also did that as part of the initial startup as well. So it does the airflow verification test of the full install, but it just does the airflow test and doesn't do the scanning for equipment and searching for model numbers and all of that. We're back out of there. Then we have setup. That's where the bulk of everything's at. We're going to cover most of these. We're going to save the furnace and the AC settings because they take a lot of time. We're going to save those for subsequent videos. But we're going to go through all the other ones right now. So the very first one is thermostat. The first one there is auto mode setup, right? So I can have an auto mode enable or disable, right? Auto means I can choose heat, cool, auto, or off. Or if I turn it off, you don't get an auto button anymore, right? That's what that's for. If you do have an auto, what's the minimum amount of time it has to wait from switching from heating to cooling? 30 minutes is the default. That's a pretty good time. You do not need to be faster than that. So generally speaking, you don't come into here and mess with it. In fact, for the most part, you don't have to come into the advanced settings at all and mess with too many things. This is just if you want to tweak some stuff, right? Heat cool dead band. This is the minimum temperature that must be enforced between the heating and cooling set point. All digital thermostats have this. Actually, all auto thermostats have this. I can't have my cooling set point below my heating set point, right? I can't cool down to 68 and then heat up to 72. Because then if it's 70 in the house, what do you want me to do? You want me to heat or you want me to cool, right? So there has to be a minimum in between them. So 2 is the default. I could make it higher, as high as 6. That would allow me to have the most energy savings, or I can drop it back down, all the way down to 0 in this case. Most thermostats will not go closer than 2. This thermostat does have pretty precise control, and I got a modulating gas valve. I got a variable speed compressor on here. I got lots of staging capacity, so I can get pretty tight control. So I could go as close as 0. That means I could cool you down to 70, heat you up to 70, and not have any gap in between. But I still can't put the heating set point higher than the cooling set point for any thermostat. The next one is offsets. This is an installer favorite, if you will. So you have a customer, you took off their old stat, it was not very accurate, it was old, it was 50 years old, it was all out of whack anyway, but their body got used to a certain temperature saying something on the stat. So they say it's 72 degrees in the room, your thermostat says it's 70 degrees in the room, they can't get the past that their old stat was just wrong, and hence their body's learned for it to be wrong. So they say it's 72, you say it's 70, you can come into the room temp here and add 2 degrees. Now your 70 becomes 72, and you've calibrated this stat to match whatever they want it to match. Their old stat, some little mercury bulb they have on the kitchen counter, whatever it is. You can go up or down 5 degrees, either way, to calibrate this to match whatever they want. Outdoor temperature, same thing. You can go up or down 5 degrees to calibrate it to match whatever they want. The outdoor air temperature sensor is installed in the condensing unit, factory installed, and it's pulling that in. If you don't have a condensing unit that communicates, then you can optionally hardwire a sensor to the furnace and get the outdoor temperature reading that way. The humidity, plus or minus 10%. Once again, to calibrate to match whatever they want it to match. The one below that, reset factory defaults. You can reset the program schedules, the user settings, the installer settings, right? Any one of those 3, and then if you hit save, it'll wipe those out and put them back to factory defaults. It's like getting your mulligan. Somebody's got in here, they messed up a bunch of settings, you don't know what they changed, you don't want to figure out what they changed, you want to just start over, this is how you would do that. You just wipe it out. So if they got in and messed up the installer settings, you would do it like that and you'd hit save, right? The last one is the last 10 fault codes. You can wipe those out if you want to. by pressing save. I never do that. I want the fault codes to stay there. The consumer doesn't see them on the screen if they're no longer happening, right? So once the problem is over, they go away. But I'd like to, on the service side, be able to go back and look at them for history purposes. The only reason you'd ever wipe them out is if for some reason I took this stat off this furnace and went and installed it on a different furnace. Then I don't want the history from a different furnace on there, because that'd be dumb. If I go back and I scroll down, scheduling on off. If they don't want to have a programmable schedule, you can turn it off, and now it's just a regular thermostat, up and down on the heat, up and down on the cool set point, right? Most states, like the ones we do business in normally, Illinois is where we're at today filming, a programmable thermostat is required by code. You have to have that. But if the consumer doesn't want to use it, I mean, you can turn it off, right? Smart recovery. So what smart recovery does is it lets the thermostat predict when it needs to begin in order to get to the set points at the time you want. So for example, if you say you're going to come home from work at 6 p.m., today on a mild day like it is right now, it may have to start at 5:42 to get your house heated and cooled at 6 p.m. But on another more extreme day in the dead of winter, it may have to start an hour and a half early to get there, right? So this feature allows the stat to calculate how early it needs to start in order to heat and cool your house by the time you want it heat and cooled. All right, so normally you leave that on unless somebody didn't like it for some reason. So that's all the thermostat settings. I said we're gonna come back to furnace and AC. Heat source lockouts is grayed out on my screen. That would be if I have a dual fuel heat pump, meaning I have a gas furnace with a heat pump. I could go in and set the outdoor air temperatures on when they would cut over. I don't have that today. I have an AC, so it's grayed out on me. If I scroll down, zoning, I don't have a zone panel. That accessory is forthcoming. Accessories, I can go in and look and adjust these things. So my filter, pressure monitor enable. If you recall in the previous video, we told you that this furnace calculates the CFM and static pressure, and we talked about that in detail. Part of the reason that it wants to know the static pressure is because if it knows the static pressure on a brand new system, and it knows the static tomorrow, and the day after, and the day after, and the day after, eventually it figures out when your furnace filter is dirty, and it notifies you it's time to change the filter. That's this feature here. If for some reason somebody doesn't like that, you can disable it, and then they can go with a straight monthly timer. I don't know why you want to do that. Normally you want the pressure sensor to do it for you, and you only change it when it's truly dirty. And if for some reason you set up the wrong filter originally, you could change it here. Or if you put a different style filter in, you could change it here. We're on an air purifier because that's what we happen to have on this project. Humidifier. Do I have a humidifier, yes or no? How many months do I want to change the pad? That's adjustable. And then do I want to humidify with fan? Usually I turn that on. If I leave it on no, the humidifier can only engage during a heating call because it's easier to add humidity to warm air. However, if that's not adding enough humidity to make the house comfortable, I can tell it to humidify with fan, which then forces the humidifier to turn on during a humidity call, and it forces the blower to go on with it, even though there's no heat call whatsoever. So I can do that if I want to. UV light, when do you want to change the bulb? Is it a 12-month or 24-month bulb? Usually they're 1 or 2 year bulbs when you buy them. They're rated. Ventilator, if I had an ERV or an HRV that was a communicating style one, I could set that up here. I don't happen to have that today, so we can't really look at that. An ERV, we have another video on that. You should check it out, see how those guys work. All right, below that, utility curtailment. So some of you guys have been on projects where the utility company disconnects low voltage control wiring over to the condensing unit on high peak usage days. They generally pay the customer some kind of little summertime bonus for the right to do that. I've been on my utility program for 6 years, and they've cycled my unit off 4 total times. And I get $40 a summer for them to have the right to cycle it off. So it's been fantastic. One of the issues with that, though, is when you use that with a communicating outdoor unit like we have today, when the utility cycles power to it, the customer, because of the thermostat, will say, the thermostat says, I can't talk to the outdoor unit. It's not communicating. Something's wrong because it has no power. So it then sends the customer an email or text message alert saying, hey, we can't talk to your outdoor unit. And then they call their contractor. Their contractor comes out there a couple hours later. By then the power's back on from the utility. Everything looks fine. No one knows what the heck happened. What would be different here is instead of wiring it to kill low voltage power on the outdoor unit like they normally do, the circuit board actually has 2 terminals on it labeled UT and IL for utility. So we wire the utility cutout signal to that, and then whenever that outdoor board gets that signal from the utility to shed its power for conservation mode, This setting right here tells it what it's going to do. So I can either just straight up disable it like like it's supposed to. You don't get any cooling whatsoever, right? Like the utility wants. I could also turn this feature off and ignore the signal from the utility. Probably not allowed with my contract with them, but I could set it up that way. Or I can go to low stage. I could shut off all the higher stages of the unit and only run it on stage 1 and 2 out of the 5 stages to kind of compromise, shed the power for the utility, but still get a little bit of cooling effect. That's what that would do. Now, if there's an alarm message, the alarm message won't say we can't talk to your outdoor unit. It'll say your utility turned off your outdoor unit. And then that's a very different service call that will be generated from the customer to the utility in this case instead of to the contractor. All right, so that's all these settings here. If I back out of there, that was setup. We got checkout. I'm gonna do the checkout later when we do the furnace and AC stuff as well. So for right now, I'm not gonna go into detail, but when you click on that, you can do a checkout of the gas furnace or the AC, and there's gonna be very specific reasons why we do it this way. And I'll explain that when we get there on the next video. You can check out the humidifier. I can tell the humidifier to turn on. When I do that, the furnace clicks on a relay that energizes power to the humidifier, and the humidifier will then open up its valve and call. Turn that off. All right. So there's my humidifier. If I scroll down, if I had zoning, I could check that out, which I don't have zoning either. That's the checkout. A couple more on here. Service info. I got furnace status, AC status. They work very similar. I can go in and look at live what's going on. How many stages of heating and cooling are being called for? What's my CFM, right? What's my static pressure? Under the AC, I would get that same kind of stuff. Plus, I would also get saturated suction pressure. I would get suction temperature. I would get my superheat. I would get my discharge temperature. I would get my line voltage to the condensing unit, 206 volts in this case. I get all kinds of useful data on the service side that I would not get with a traditional stat, obviously. I can go look at my last 10 system faults. I don't have any because I just installed it. It's brand new, and I'm a perfect installer, so we're good there. I can also look at all of the history of all the faults we've ever had. This is brand new, so there's nothing on there either. But if I ever had a fault alarm, I can come back and look at all of the fault history forever on this unit. I can also look and see how many times it's cycled heating and cooling, which in this case, it's been 3 heat calls, because this thing is literally a couple of weeks old, right? So not very much going on here. But I can look at that over time at a consumer's house. I can see how many hours it's run heat, how many hours it's run cooling, right? And how many times those things have cycled. So lots of good data there for me. Model and serial numbers of the stat, furnace, or AC. I can click on that and get that data. Service phone number, right? Who's my contractor? In this case, it's a generic number. We have another video coming out that'll tell you how to add your own dealer contact information onto the customer stat. So if they ever get an alert message, time to change their filter, igniter fault, whatever it is, that message will then show your contact info as the dealer for the customer. Right now, it's just a generic one for ICP. All right. Software update, refrigerant charge. We'll talk about refrigerant charge on the AC video. Software upgrade. It'll update itself over Wi-Fi if it's on Wi-Fi. If it's not on Wi-Fi, you can update it with an SD card in the bottom here, right? Usually you'll have it on Wi-Fi. All right. So that concludes our advanced service setting setups. Please take a look at our future videos on furnace specific setup and AC specific setup. And in the meantime, go ahead and click on that subscribe button and set it up for reminders so you get notified when those videos do in fact come out. Thank you for your time.